Here with Eric Schwartz, co-founder of BlueConduit. Eric, when it comes to the nation's lead service lines, I don't know, 10 million or so that are out there, the effort to get these things out of the ground, what's one of the big challenges that you all are focused on? What's one of the big tricks to this whole puzzle of lead service line replacement?
Thanks, Travis, for the question. Thanks for having me. The core question is, where are they? Where are these lead pipes? And the challenge is we can't really plan very well a community, a state, without knowing how many we have. Can't set a budget. And so this challenge of we don't know how many there are, we don't know which homes have them, is really paramount to getting going.
Hmm. And why is that we don't know where they are? How did that come about?
Well, these have been installed over the course of, let's say, a century or more, and they've been put into the ground without much question. And writing down the material of the pipes that are providing folks water wasn't the top priority. And looking backwards, sometimes it was written down. Sometimes it's been written on some index cards or work slips and work orders over decades. Sometimes it's been sitting in a handwritten map or a handwritten spreadsheet and now been digitized into some Excel spreadsheet or maybe even a GIS system somewhere. But for the most part, there are just holes in that record. There's just uncertainties. There's just a lot of unknowns. There's missing data. There's also data that's not reliable. There's data that says copper, but actually, well, there's two portions to every service line, at least. So all of it was copper, one portion copper. What about the other portion? Was it lead? And so these are the kinds of informational challenges that have existed for years. And now they're just suddenly surfaced because the communities around the country are required to be providing an inventory and a preliminary one by October 2024, thanks to the latest EPA lead and copper rule.
Yeah. So these inventories that utilities, cities need to put together, they need to find the lead pipes. It's wildly inefficient, costly to go just digging things up and looking for where they are. Could you talk about the approach of BlueConduit? How do you come into this?
Sure. The challenge is we have a fixed amount of money. We know that there's not enough money to go around to get all the lead out, and there's certainly not enough just to dig up every address. So how do we reduce the time that folks are living with lead when we don't exactly know who is living with lead? And that's exactly where statistics and predictive modeling comes in. So if we have a little bit of data and some information about where some of the lead is and where some of the copper is, we can then generalize and extrapolate beyond just that small amount of data to a whole community and generate a likelihood of each home having a lead service line on each portion of the service line. And that allows us to then provide information of recommendations to a utility, to a city, to say, hey, contractors, go to these addresses, go to these blocks first, because we know there's lead with a very high probability there. And let's work our way down this list so that we are reducing the time that folks are living with lead, and we're not spending time just digging up streets where there actually isn't much lead, if at all.
Yeah. So how successful is BlueConduit's technology? How has this worked for you all and for the communities that have used it?
We've been able to help over 100 different water systems and communities across the country, across over a dozen states in these. We started the company in 2019, but we started working with the city of Flint in 2016. And throughout all this time, I'd say the big success has been that when we're providing recommendations, transparent recommendations to communities, and they go and dig exactly at those addresses, they're finding lead at very high rates, at rates of 85% of the time when they are digging up holes and shutting down streets and interrupting water services. They are finding lead pipes. They are removing those, which means that they're being really efficient with the limited funds that they have right now.
That's fantastic. Could you talk a little bit about your near term and longer term direction? You know, how Blue Conduit is growing, how you're evolving your tools, where your work is headed?
Sure. I think some of the biggest areas of growth for us is as we're growing our tools and our ability to integrate with other platforms and integration with, say, Esri's ArcGIS. We're now connected with them. We now are integrated with other folks for water testing providers and other ways of doing resident communication straight out of our smart inventory. And by having a smart inventory that's informed by the statistical models and machine learning, we're able to be smarter about where we're recommending water tests to be sent, where pictures and filters should be sent. Another area of growth for us is going beyond the water system to the state. And so we've been engaging with states for some time now on a policy and regulatory perspective. We're very excited to see some states like Michigan and New Jersey really taking proactive steps to embrace the value of predictive models. And now we're looking to provide, as we've been engaging with other states, value from the predictive modeling perspective and also data management perspective. So we can help a state build their statewide smart inventory from the bottom up.
Lastly, if a municipality is interested in taking this approach, working with Blue Conduit, could you just talk a little bit about how they get started and maybe what the beginning of that process would actually look like?
Well, certainly visit us at blueconduit.com and contact us there. But what the process really looks like is we first spend some time to really understand what is the data and what is the problem. And part of the initial phase of engagement is really walking the utility, the city, through our tools to get their data onboarded and in the right format, which is going to clean up their inventory to be the format that the EPA and their state require, and also to set us up for success in starting actual modeling. So once we have that data, we can start making recommendations about which addresses to prioritize first and which data will be most valuable to inform a predictive model. And then we keep iterating with the client on where to go, get that new data, improve the model, provide an updated map and rank ordered prioritization to optimize their replacement plans and their inspection plans. And so really the key beginning point is this data ingestion, onboarding, and cleaning that opens up all of the value beyond that.
That made me think of one actual last question. There's a lot of communities out there that are smaller, they're under-resourced, there's a lot of equity, environmental justice issues. Are you able to help those communities kind of with their location of lead lines?
Yeah, and I think it's critical that we continue to think about the smaller and rural and lower income communities as well. We've been engaging with our partners to do just that. So we've actually received funding from Google.org, from the Rockefeller Foundation to build tools that we open source and targeted at exactly those smaller, lower income rural communities that will be able to engage, get their data uploaded, and get to the point of estimating how much lead do we have, get to the point of providing that to inform their application for SRF money. Another thing that we're doing is we're working really closely with the technical assistance partners that are out there to make sure that we're providing that software to those partners so they can go in and work hand in hand with their utility expertise with those folks in rural areas.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, Eric, thanks for sharing a good bit about what Blue Conduit does and how it can help really find these lead service lines out there as the nation really works to get these things out of the ground. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Travis, for having me.